Hi everyone! So today I'm going to be talking about the newish Natasha Denona palette, the Biba palette. I have been trying to avoid looking at new Natasha products, but her Instagram is one of the few that I still really frequent. And I saw when this palette was teased and I saw when it was announced, but I managed to avoid the name. I just saw that it was a neutral palette and I looked at it and I thought, this palette is beautiful. And I managed to talk myself out of the palette at first because I am on a no-buy and I don't need another Natasha Denona palette. I actually have quite a few, but anyway, as time went on, I kept seeing more things surface about the palette. I finally saw the palette's name, which just intrigued me that much more. If you've seen some of my other videos, you would have heard me talk about the Biba girl style. I've mentioned it before as one of my sort of sources of aesthetic inspiration. I definitely went pretty hard with it today, very inspired. My biggest inspiration for the Biba girl look isn't even a direct source, but an inspiration of itself. It's the Kevin Aqua Kate Moss look from his book. I'll insert a picture here, but that's actually what I was looking at when I did my look today. I really wanted to channel that a little bit, and you know, Kevin Aqua took inspiration from Biba girl look, so it kind of has transformed a few times over the years. The Biba aesthetic came out of London from the Biba clothing stores, like the late 60s and into the 70s, and it was very much about dark colors and the makeup was very dark. The inspiration, I believe, was that the girls were to look like they were going to attend a funeral, and something about that just really appealed to me. But it was all about these deep, cool colors, a lot of navy blues and burgundies, blacks and gray, and I've just really been drawn to those colors and just the Biba girl aesthetic. And even if you go back and look at pictures from the 60s with the Biba clothing, you can see the makeup inspiration there as well, and you can really see how it was such a huge inspiration for a lot of people, and you can definitely see where other people have taken inspiration from it over the years and turned it into their own thing. But anyway, the name definitely made me look at the palette again in a different way because I'm so drawn to that inspiration. So I have notes in front of me, and I'm also looking at a picture of the palette on my phone, so I will be looking down. But this palette has a range of shades, so it's got cool tones, warm tones, and neutral tones. It's got mauves, burgundies, and browns, and warm grays and black, so it really has the essential heart of the Biba girl style, and I enjoy the names of the shadows themselves. I'll show you a picture of the palette. I'll have the picture kind of here from time to time, but the names, we have Rustic, Prairie, Cocoa, Freckle, Shine, Pasha, Monroe, Rayon, Buff, Tone, Seed, Tar, Sculpture, Spot, and Tusk. Of course, no surprise to anybody, as soon as I saw one of the shadows was named Tusk, I was like, I need this for reasons, and reasons that are pretty dumb, because one of the things I've been trying to work on is just buying things because of a name, and it's really easy for me to get sucked into stuff like that. But anyway, I also have my notes here where I cover things, reasons why I want it and reasons why I don't want it, because I thought that I would kind of explain my thought process, because this is something that probably a few months ago I would have just purchased, and lately, being super stressed and just wanting new stuff, I probably would have just purchased it. But I'm taking a step back and looking a little bit more critically. So, I mean, I want the palette because Natasha Denona eyeshadows are my absolute favorite. They are my favorite things to use. I gravitate towards the palettes when I do my looks for filming most of the time because it's so easy, it looks so good, and even every day it's so easy. Everything just blends so well together. I have the gold palette, I have the tropic palette, I have the sunset and the lilac palette for the full size, like 15 pan palettes. And I just love them because they're so easy to use and I don't have to spend a lot of time working with them. Like some other shadows, sometimes you kind of have to work with them. I was using Anastasia shadows today and I was struggling, but I went in with Natasha on top because I was like, this isn't worth it. Let's just go with what I like. I also really like the neutral color story of the Biba palette. This is a color story that I would wear every day for work. This is definitely something that I would gravitate towards and use a lot of. I like that it's mostly mattes, but the metallics are shades that I would use and are definitely the kind of shadows that I reach towards with what I already have. I feel like though I'm missing the particular metallics that are in here. I feel like I don't have these exact shades, and I feel like when I've been looking at my collection recently and I wanted those easy metallic looks, like sometimes I just really want to swipe some metallic shadow on, blend it out and go, and sometimes I'm looking at what I have and I'm like, I don't have anything that's neutral and shiny. You know, I don't really always want like the duochrome reflect. I want something that's metallic, but I don't want something that's super bright, and I want what this is, or what I'm telling myself this is. Inspired by the names and the inspiration of the palettes and the names of the shadows, you know, it's not the reason why I should buy this palette, but it definitely is a factor because I feel like I would enjoy using it that much more. When you have that kind of connection to it, in my opinion, it just makes it something that I reach for more. I notice that with some of the things I just have positive connotations with, that I just want to reach for more, I enjoy it more, and I feel good putting on my makeup. It would just be something that I would enjoy doing, and I could see how it could kind of become a routine, and not necessarily in a bad way, but just that I knew I had that little thing to look forward to because I have the positive associations with the names, with the inspiration, so it would just kind of be an everyday positive thing. That being said, I already have 4 full-size Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes. I really do not need more. They are very, very, very expensive. I need to use the ones that I already have, and I mean, every time I use one I haven't used in a while, like I just used the Sunset palette, I'm reminded of how much I love it, but I can't use every palette every day, and so when I'm not using them, they're just sitting there, and it just feels like such a waste. I do have plenty of neutral eyeshadows. I have plenty of earthy tones. There's nothing in this palette that is particularly unique. It's not like it's a brand new palette to me, like I've never seen these shades before. Yes, the formula is something I like. Yes, the formula is something I'm familiar with and that I know I like using. So that is the difference. But it doesn't mean that I don't already have similar things and I couldn't achieve similar looks with what I already have. And then there's money and space, because those are 2 huge factors. You know, that little thing called no buy, which I've been really working hard on. And I just have to stress it to myself, like for the 3rd time. Names are not a reason to buy shit. I get it in my head sometimes that I feel like this is for me. I kind of convince myself of that, because when I look at some of the Natasha stuff, I'm like, oh, clearly this is for me. It's like, Natasha doesn't know who I am. She's not making this for me. I'm delusional. But it's easy to convince yourself sometimes to be like, yes, this is meant for me. This is exactly the thing that I need and I have to have it. And sometimes it doesn't help because other people say that too. When they're like, this is totally your thing. This is totally your aesthetic. This is your brand. You need this. And I'm like, yes, agreed. You know, twist my rubber arm one more time. But I struggle with this palette because I feel like I will eventually have it. It is permanent, you know? So what am I gonna do about this? Am I gonna buy it? Am I not gonna buy it? I have no plans to buy it right now. It's not like it's sitting in a cart on the Sephora website and I'm like counting down the days till it's okay for me to buy it. But it's definitely something that I will potentially buy. Like I can't say 100%, but I feel like it will be mine at some point because it has all the things that I consider to be positives for a palette, in that favorite formula, color scheme I like, not a single shadow that I wouldn't use. You know, it fits every single one of my criteria that I made for myself, except for the crazy amount of money that it costs. But that's where I'm like, well, it stays on the wish list. This is my birthday month, so I'm trying not to justify it that way and be like, well, let's just treat myself, because I don't need it. I just want it. Now, I do have a Sephora gift card. I could potentially pull some resources around my birthday time and then buy it that way. That is a potential. I don't necessarily want to do that because I'd rather kind of keep gift cards and money and stuff for things that I actually really need, things that I would need to repurchase. And I feel like I'm getting down there with some of those things that I've been using over the last couple of months that I'm gonna need to make repurchases. I've just kind of been spreading out everything I have and trying to use a little bit of everything. And what's gonna happen is I'm gonna run out of everything all at one time. I can't just focus on one thing right now. Like, I'm not panning. So take like concealer, I'll use like the 3 different concealers I have, and I'm rotating between them all. So I'm gonna end up running out of them all around at the same time, and then I'm gonna have to repurchase concealer and so on. So I'm kind of thinking about that as well, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I do want this palette. Like, I haven't been able to talk myself out of it 100%, like with other palettes that I've wanted immediately and then quickly have been able to talk myself out of, because I realized I didn't entirely like the color scheme, or I wasn't going to use the shadows every day, and if I wasn't going to enjoy the formula, if I wasn't going to, etc. That's the difficult thing with this palette, is that I know I would use it, and I know I'd use it every day, which is a factor that's becoming of increasing importance for me because I have filmed less. So priorities might change when I get back into more of a regular routine filming schedule, and I have different makeup I need for filming in comparison to real life. But right now, the majority of the time I wear makeup is everyday life. This palette would get used everyday life for sure. So it's hard to tell myself no for something that I feel like I would use on a daily basis, but then I have to remind myself, you have so much else that you still need to use anyway. So what's helping me right now avoiding the purchase is I'm avoiding watching reviews, reading reviews. I'm avoiding tutorials using the palette just because I feel like that would suck me in a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with watching stuff like that or reading reviews and that kind of stuff if it helps you. But sometimes for me, I feel like I can't always pull the inspiration away and use it with what I already have, especially if that thing is something that I want. So I'm just not reading, I'm not watching, I'm taking it away, except for Natasha Denona's Instagram. I'm not watching tutorials, I'm not watching the application, but I will look at pictures for inspiration because that does inspire me. I don't need the product, like I don't need to look at a list of exactly what was used. I can just look at the picture and build from there. So that's kind of been a little helpful. I'm going back to this source of the inspiration, and I actually spend a lot of time going through archives and looking at the photography from the late 60s that was in the fashion magazines, that was the Biba girl style, and looking at the makeup in particular and looking at that, and even just getting inspiration from some of the wider shots as well, like not just like more of like a beauty shot, but just getting inspiration from sort of the mood and going back to that again, re-exploring that angle of it, which is something that came on from this palette, because I was like, oh yeah, I was actually spending more time going more in depth and looking up more about the style, which was inspired completely from this palette, because I was like, well, I want to learn more now. I want to see more. I want to get more inspiration. And from there, I've been able to turn the focus to things that I already have, and I've been able to kind of pull a little bit more out of things that I have to create the looks that I want to, even if it means reaching for like 4 different palettes. Even if I have to mix, 3 different lipsticks together, I can still kind of create something with what I already have, and I feel accomplished by it. Like, this is not a recreation, like I mentioned earlier, of the Kevin Aqua look, but it was inspired by it, and I feel like if I kind of put it in black and white, you could kind of see like the inspiration a little bit more and you can see what I was going for, and I feel like the inspiration is still very clear, even though I didn't use a palette called Biba. So anyway, I just wanted to share some of this with you guys because it is a struggle sometimes when you want something, but you realistically know, like there's that part of you that's saying you don't need this, but you still want it. And sometimes it's good just to kind of verbalize it and say it out loud and write it down. When I was writing it down, like I actually, this is what my sheet looks like, if you can kind of see. Like I actually have like bullet points, and I went through and I was organizing things. I was like pro-con list, very, very Rory Gilmore. And I was just trying to see like what are the good things and what are the bad things. They kind of equaled a little bit, which was also a little hard. It's not like there was an overwhelming list of pros or an overwhelming list of negatives, but it's still very helpful to get it all out one way or another. And I haven't talked a lot about new purchases recently because I've been avoiding them. Still plan to do a would I buy it? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's going to come soon once I get back into this routine again. But anyway, thank you guys so much for all your patience lately and for all of your love and support. Let me know what things you've been trying to talk yourself out of. Maybe I can help. And if you have anything to tell me about the Biba palette or anything you feel like that could help talk me out of it even more, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we get a chance to chat soon. Bye for now.